Live from KSAT 12, the 6 o'clock news starts right now.
We begin tonight with late-breaking news concerning the primary election last week in Bexar County. A Bexar County commissioner calling for an investigation into the results of that primary election. Precinct 4 Commissioner Tommy Calvert writing a letter today to Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf asking that independent forensic investigators the court called for be hired by the next commissioner's court meeting.
The results for the recent election were delayed for hours on election night. We were told that was due to a software issue, which caused the new $12.5 million voting system to crash 3 times back on March 3rd. All problems Calvert pointed to in his letter that he says warrants an investigation. We'll keep you updated.
A man who police say has a history of domestic violence now wanted for allegedly shooting his wife this morning.
The shooting happened on General McMullen near Joint Base San Antonio Lackland. Then police were called out to another scene about 8 miles away where witnesses say the shooter crashed his vehicle and fired even more shots.
Devin Clark working the story all day for us, and he tells us how you could help police locate him.
This morning, San Antonio police say a violent chain of events started on General McMullen right near JBSA Lackland. It's where they found a 41-year-old woman shot 3 times, allegedly by her husband.
The husband had been waiting for her and intercepted her on her way to work, drove alongside of her and fired multiple rounds into her vehicle.
The alleged abuser is this man, 53-year-old Javier De Hoyos. Police say his wife already had a protective order against him when his gunfire sent her to the hospital today. At last check, she was in stable condition. At least 1 bullet also struck an occupied Via bus.
Nobody injured.
Then police say De Hoyos fled.
Right now we are looking for him in another area of town.
Police say the wanted man drove to this neighborhood near West Ashby and St. Anne. Witnesses say he was forced to abandon his vehicle there.
He came over here and wrecked his car over there because his daughter lives there.
Investigators spent 4 hours preparing for a standoff, only to find out that he wasn't there anymore. Neighbors say De Hoyos did create a frenzy, though, before he left.
Because that guy, he went crazy, like going through the alley, shooting boom, boom, boom like that, and over here too.
No word on where De Hoyos went from there, but police do believe he is still armed and dangerous. De Hoyos already had an outstanding warrant for threatening his wife earlier this month. Today, he picked up another one for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Police are urging anyone who has any information about his possible whereabouts to give them a call immediately. Devin Clark, KSAT 12 News.
Keeping out the coronavirus by keeping out visitors. It's a choice facilities that care for the elderly are now facing. That's the group the CDC says has a higher risk for complications from COVID-19. Garrett Berger checked in with local facilities to see what steps they're taking.
Inside Morningside at the Meadows Retirement Community, there's no panic.
People smile and elbow, and I think people are taking it in stride mostly.
But there are precautions. A sign greets visitors, urging them to stay away if sick. And when they sign in, there were questions.
Number 1, do you have a fever? Number 2, do you have a cough? If they say yes to any of those, then they cannot get a name tag to come in the building.
Though there haven't been any community cases of COVID-19 in San Antonio yet, Wesley Wells, the executive director for the retirement community, says they want to play their part to prevent its spread, even inviting residents to help with wiping down.
But if they want to join in, the more hands the merrier, and knowing this group, they will.
But keeping it out to begin with is the top priority.
They're already restricting access for vendors and entertainment that would come into the facilities, and they're canceling trips for residents too.
Today, they decreased visiting hours, and Wells says there's a very good chance they'll lock down visitor access even further.
But we're trying to consider resident rights for visitors, families' rights and needs to see their loved ones, and balance that out with a really sincere effort to prevent, any of that COVID-19 spreading to our community.
Others have already clamped down. We had to video chat with Poets Walk San Antonio after a decision by their corporate office essentially curbs all visitors except medical personnel. That extends even to family members.
It's just an extra measure just to make sure that we're going to be providing the right care and not putting their lives in jeopardy.
Back at Morningside, resident Judy Adams isn't concerned about a restriction of visitors if it comes.
It doesn't bother me. I don't think this is going to be a forever and everything.
Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
Instead of fun in the sun, now with an extended spring break to avoid spreading the coronavirus, thousands of local college students will be in front of their laptops. Dylan Gonzalez, a senior communications major at UTSA, is among them. Gonzalez already was taking 2 online courses. Now he'll have to take 2 others. That won't be a problem for him, but he says staying off of Twitter and things like that will be to concentrate on his studies. Up until now, Gonzalez says he was taking the COVID-19 outbreak in stride, but now that it's affecting him personally, it's different.
Oh, that's not good, and now I'm worried about it in like a little bit, yeah.
Still, Gonzalez says he understands why UTSA is taking precautions. The school has extended spring break by a week, and classes will resume online only from March 23rd through at least April 13th.
The day after the NBA suspended its season after one of its players tested positive for COVID-19, nearly every other sports league has now either suspended, canceled, or made major changes. The United Soccer League, where San Antonio FC plays, suspending the season for at least 30 days. The PGA Tour will continue to play, but without fans. That includes the Valero Texas Open, which will be played here later this month. Trinity University announcing that athletics will end the spring season on March 23rd. Everything after that is canceled. All Conference USA, that is the UTSA Conference, has suspended all spring sports until further notice. Greg Simmons will have much more on these suspensions coming up a little bit later in sports. We also have this information for you right now on KSAT.com.
Of course, we've been hearing a lot about events being canceled, postponed, or suspended from the NBA to March Madness to other major league sports, not to mention South by Southwest. But what we have not heard is the plan for Fiesta. There is a petition on change.org right now gathering signatures to encourage city leaders to cancel the party with a purpose amid concerns about the coronavirus. At last check, that petition had more than 500 signatures. And within the last 30 minutes or so, we've learned there will be a press conference at 10 a.m. tomorrow. The topic, the Fiesta schedule.
The annual spring bloom hasn't been canceled yet, but it has been postponed. San Antonio Water System putting out that word today. It was supposed to happen this Saturday, but the utility says it will now hold off to better accommodate volunteers, partners, and vendors. SAW says it plans to hold spring bloom later this year, but so far they have not named another date.
All these cancellations, delays, suspensions, and other changes caused by the virus will likely continue to come, and we are keeping up with it all on KSAT.com. All the latest stories on the illness and its impact can be found right there on our homepage, and we're constantly updating the latest information so it is easy to find. Just go to our homepage at KSAT.com.
Mental illness leads to murder. That's what San Antonio police are saying about a deadly stabbing on the city's south side. Officers tell us a 19-year-old man stabbed and killed his mother and sister. That all happened in their home in the 300 block of Gillette Avenue. Police tell Katrina Weber the suspect attacked them in front of his family.
Just as the day was beginning, San Antonio police were working to figure out how and why 2 lives came to an end. Inside a home in the 300 block of Gillette, they found a 42-year-old woman and her 23-year-old daughter, both stabbed to death. The suspect, they say, was a 19-year-old man, the son and brother of the victims.
I do know that there are some mental health issues associated with this.
Still, police were at a loss to explain the sudden violence. So was at least one neighbor.
I never would see any cops stop by. I mean, you didn't see nothing, no calls, no nothing.
Adelisa Quiroz says they seemed like peaceful people, so she was surprised to see the scene unfolding at their home.
Wow, so young. Very. And the mental illness it's a big factor. I mean.
Investigators hope to get some answers from the suspect, who they say made no attempt to get away. They took him into custody at the scene. Among the many questions police still have is why the suspect would have lashed out at those 2 family members. They say there were other relatives home at the time, including his grandmother.
There was a 22-year-old female in the house with an infant child. Those 3 were unharmed.
How much those other relatives may have seen is still unclear. But based on what police know so far, they say the suspected killer will face criminal charges. Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
Let's take a look at time saver traffic right now. This is I-10 at Wurzbach looking east. You can see those flashing lights there. That's where there is the scene of a wreck playing out. Looks like it's got the inside shoulder, at least 1 lane, maybe 2 lanes blocked there. So traffic very slow going eastbound here at I-10 in Wurzbach. Check your mailbox. Millions of Texans either have or will soon have their forms from the U.S. Census. Every 10 years, there's a head count of everyone living in the United States. The census helps determine how much federal funding communities get for schools, road construction, Medicare, and Medicaid. All letters should be out by the end of the month. Then in mid-May, census takers will begin knocking on doors of homes that haven't responded yet. This is the first year you can complete the census online, along with the usual by mail or by phone methods.
Mine was waiting for me in the mailbox this afternoon.
All right.
Taking a live look outside with live cam. The clouds have moved in, the sunshine is gone, but the humidity remains.
Yeah, we're still feeling the mugginess out there, and it's really going to be here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. That's what odds favor. The aquifer, it's down a little bit. We could use some rain. South Texas is basically where the drought is across the entire state. We could use it. We'll take a look at the rain chances in a bit. The aquifer, 3.3 feet above the March average. All right, here it is. Oak, high at 720. That's the highest reading so far this oak season, and we'll just continue to see that number climb. Mold, hackberry, and mulberry, all moderate. So mostly cloudy out there this evening, 80 degrees at 8 p.m. By 10 p.m., 74. We'll talk more about the pollen count, oak season, and our rain chances coming right up.
1 minute, I'm telling you whether you're negative or I'm giving you a result that's going to change your life.
There aren't many medical tests where you can get the results in 60 seconds, but a new test could help stop the spread of HIV. We'll have more on this story coming up.
And then coming up on Monday on KSAT News at 9, local nurse Janine Jones was convicted of killing 2 babies and suspected in the deaths of dozens more. KSAT News at 9 shares the story behind one of the most shocking suspected serial killers in Texas history. Hear from the families, the prosecutors, and the experts who know too well the decades-long story of the killer nurse. That's this coming Monday at 9 on KSAT.com or on the KSAT TV app. An estimated 1.1 million people are living with HIV, but 1 in 7 don't even know they have it. Ursula Perry shows us an easier than ever way to find out if a person is HIV positive.
Well, my body's been a mess.
Rolando Rodriguez can carry a tune. Music and his health are always at the top of his mind. Today, he's taking a screening test for HIV.
It is an epidemic. I mean, it is something that it is seriously, it could threaten your life and your health.
The Insti test is simple and quick. The process starts with a finger prick. A few drops of blood go into a solution, and about 60 seconds later, a patient knows if he or she is infected with HIV.
This is groundbreaking for us. What I'm looking for is that one dot.
Prevention specialist Shirlene Manuel has been testing for HIV since the 80s. It used to take weeks to get the results. She thinks speeding up the process could slow down the spread of infection.
It has made a difference in the amount of tests that we see that come in to the office now and the amount of testing that we are doing out in the community.
This rapid result test is in line with the president's HIV initiative to end the epidemic by 2030.
If we can reach those people that are at high risk quicker, and we can get that epidemic really down where it should be.
Oh, sometimes I go out by myself.
Rolando's test came back negative, giving him peace of mind and something to sing about.
One thing for patients to consider is that a very recent HIV infection may not show up in your bloodstream and on this test right away. That's because not enough detectable antibodies may have built up in your bloodstream. For that reason, doctors say you should be retested in 3 to 6 months. Ursula Perry, KSAT 12 News.
Outside today, 85 degrees again out there.
Yeah, warm.
It is a warm week.
It is, and we're running above average. Spring break 2020, right? There we go. Pool water's still very cold in the area neighborhood, so it's not like it feels that much better to jump in because it's so cold. But I do want to talk about the time of year, and of course, that's oak season. Dreaded oak. I know, I'm sorry, but every year we need to address this. All right, take a look at this photo that came in today in our KSAT Connect, and those are the catkins that grow out of the oak trees, release the pollen, and then they drop, and you find them all over your car and everywhere else. You got to scoop them up and get rid of them. Well, Yes, they're out and they're really starting to be in full effect. I even saw one tree earlier today where the catkins were already dropped, and that's very premature. Otherwise, I took this picture of the side panel on my 04 F-150 right here, okay? You can see the little pollen grains. This is the oak pollen, the little yellow specks that you get on your windshield, your windows, and all over your car. Yeah, it's there. And of course, some good old infamous Texas pinstripes as well. Why not, right? All right, so here's a look at our oak season. Notice how it does peak in late March, early April. On average, that's when we peak. It can come a little before that and a little sooner. So we'll let you know as we get more information. But we are high today with a count of 720. Okay, and that's the highest we've had yet. And I just expect it to really jump here the next few days. All right, today we made it to 87, so running above average, considering the average is 73, and we started the day at 65, which is 15 degrees above our average low, so unseasonably warm, and that's really going to be the case. You look locally, Pleasanton 88 along with Devine, 83 in Bulverde, New Braunfels right now at 84. You get to 90 degrees in Carrizo Springs and Cotulla, and Laredo at 92. Those are the warmer locations, but still just some 70s in the hill country, so a bit of a variety out there in terms of our temperatures. For now, I mean, when you look at the forecast, we're not going to see a big change in the coming days. Pretty straightforward here with high temperatures, mostly right around 80. At times will be in the upper 70s. Dew points, you feel a bit of mugginess out there. We're not at the oppressive level yet. That's when the dew point hits 70. We're nowhere near that, but it's still noticeable humidity, spring-like humidity in the air. And it's that time of year we don't see as many cold fronts. You know, at least they're very infrequent if we do see them. So our dew points are just going to stay up, and this humidity is not going anywhere anytime soon. At least that's what odds favor at this time. As for the cloud cover, the clouds have been coming and going. We've been starting the days with a bit of fog and a few sprinkles. That's not going to change the next few days. We'll continue to see a difference in our upper level clouds that'll be streaming overhead. Right now, it's pretty beautiful. Those clouds are streaming in from the southwest, and they're really out ahead of this swirl we have just off the California coastline. That upper level disturbance bringing some soaking rain to the desert southwest. And we had some high hopes that that would head our way and bring us some good rain this weekend. Unfortunately, it looks like this high over Mexico, Big Blue H, it's going to be too big of a blocking mechanism. It's going to keep that upper level low too far to the north to bring us much moisture. So we have slight rain chances, but even if we do see any showers this weekend, pretty isolated and limited in actual moisture and accumulation. Most of it's going to stay north of us. So here's the breakdown for you. Tomorrow, we'll start the day with low clouds, maybe some patchy fog, a few sprinkles, 66, just like the past few mornings. Then we get up to 80 in the afternoon with this partial sunshine, breaks in those clouds, and a southeasterly wind at 5 to 10. Then we get into the weekend. We're calling for just a 20% chance of rain on Saturday, Sunday, about a 30% chance. And next week, daily chances around 40%. But it's a really messy weather pattern that we're looking at. So it's not one of those situations where 1 or 2 days really stand out as our best shot. It's all just, about a 30 to 40% chance, maybe a few pop-ups here and there. But of course, things can change between now. Oak.
Exactly.
I'm getting so emotional over those rain chances between now and then.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
Some college basketball teams were on the court warming up to play in their tournaments when they got the word canceled.
I was surprised it took the NCAA to cancel March Madness as long as it did, because already a lot of the conference tournaments were being canceled, including the Big 12. When we come back, more about what happened this morning up in Kansas City, Missouri, and no spectators allowed at the Valero Texas Open. Coming up.
This is a pandemic, a global pandemic where people's lives are at stake. And, I'm a lot more worried about my kids and my mom, who's 82 years old.
Mavs owner Mark Cuban after the Mavs beat the Nuggets 113-97, what may be the last NBA game for a while due to the NBA player testing positive for the coronavirus in big board sports. The NBA's decision to suspend its season for at least the next 30 days due to the COVID-19 pandemic has left our San Antonio Spurs as well as the rest of the league in limbo, not knowing when the season is going to resume after 2 players have now tested positive for the coronavirus. The Spurs have 19 games left in the regular season, very little hope of making the playoffs, 11 of them home games, of one of which was supposed to be tomorrow against Denver, and 8 were on the road. There are already preparations underway to limit travel among Spurs staff to the road games, but now those plans are mute considering the commissioner just pulled the plug on all the games for now. The reason, after a careless Rudy Gobert tested positive for the coronavirus after he traveled from Salt Lake City with his teammates on board their charter flight, and with the test coming back positive while he remained at the team hotel and not at the arena last night in Oklahoma City. When news of the positive test returned, the game was called before it even tipped off, with the public address announcer sending fans home. Both teams are quarantined in their locker rooms to be tested. The Thunder were released first and the Jazz second on board buses after every player was tested. Today we found out that Gobert's teammate, Donovan Mitchell, also has tested positive for the COVID-19. That's after Gobert had made a point to touch every microphone and tape recorder following his interview on Monday and did the same to his teammates' belongings in the locker room. Now the NBA season is on hold for now.
I'm sure that the league is doing a very deep dive into the appropriate next steps, and we'll just wait to hear and see what those are.
That's the right move. I think fear, when you start worrying about what's happening or what could happen, that's the wrong thing to do, trying to play games and trying to bring people into the stadium. So it was expected, and it was with a swift decision, and the guys all understand it.
The NBA G League also suspended all operations following tonight's games, which of course affects the Austin Spurs. Major League Soccer has announced it is also suspending its season due to the coronavirus. And now PGA Commissioner Jay Monahan has announced that the tour events will continue, but without spectators. That includes the Valero Texas Open next month here in San Antonio. In a statement released today, this is what the commissioner told us in part. He said, "This policy starts with the Players' Championship tomorrow, Friday, continues through the Valero Texas Open. It's important to note that could change, but for the time being, this decision allows the PGA Tour, our fans and constituents to plan, prepare, and respond as events develop." Texas Longhorns are supposed to face the Texas Tech Red Raiders to open the second day of competition, the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, Missouri, but not any longer. The Big 12 has now joined the SEC and the Big 10 by canceling the rest of their basketball tournament due to the coronavirus outbreak. That's before the NCAA pulled the plug on all of March Madness. A press conference was held this morning in Kansas City to make it official.
I feel terrible for the kids. They wanted to play, the coaches wanted to coach, and in the end, when the mayor declared a state of medical emergency in the area, and when we started to hear what was going on at the national level, it just became apparent that it was time to make a decision.
All right, closer to home, the boys' high school state basketball tournament has been suspended in the Alamo Dome after Cole beat Peaster in the Class 3A state semifinals this afternoon, 58-44. That decision made this afternoon by the University Interscholastic League after the state semifinals tipped off in the Alamo Dome this morning that featured 3 teams from the San Antonio area competing for state titles. But UI officials are not ready to cancel the tournament entirely in the future just yet.
We're working around the clock right now to develop contingency plans. I will tell you, it is our goal, it is our hope, it is our intention to complete this tournament at some point in the future. It is our intention to complete our other state championship activities and our academics competitions, music competitions, and athletic competitions.
All right, we'll see how long the suspension lasts here, but the school year goes to early June? So they have that to kind of squeeze it all in. We'll see what happens.
Impacting almost every aspect of life.
Every single aspect.
Yeah, more so high school and also major sports this time around. Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. So to come at 6, some Houston area restaurants say coronavirus concerns are causing a dip in sales. But that isn't the only problem for some. What they say the customers they do get are helping themselves to that's not on the menu.
And more cancellations, changes, restrictions because of the coronavirus. What's being done to calm fears and stop the spread of COVID-19? Next.
As the novel coronavirus continues to spread, governments around the world are taking measures to try and slow it down. In the U.S., President Trump announced a temporary ban on travel to some European countries that is set to begin tomorrow. And the U.S. already has travel restrictions in place for China and Iran. Daryl Forges has the latest from Atlanta.
Americans are still traveling for now.
This virus, we have to be safe, but we still want to travel.
Got some gloves, trying to stay away from a lot of people, just being mindful and being cautious.
This after President Trump on Wednesday announced restrictions on travel from Europe to the U.S.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
But the president's initial announcement later required some important corrections. The travel suspension doesn't apply to all of Europe. It applies only to 26 countries, including France, Germany, and hard-hit Italy, not the UK and Ireland. American citizens, permanent residents, and some of their family members can still travel home. Vice President Mike Pence Thursday morning added,
Americans coming home will be funneled through 13 different airports. They'll be screened, and then we're going to ask every American and legal resident returning to the United States to self-quarantine for 14 days.
The restrictions still causing concerns for Americans returning from abroad.
I was pretty nervous about not being able to go home.
In Atlanta, I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
New travel restrictions go into effect tomorrow for U.S. military members and their families because of the coronavirus. According to the Defense Department, all forms of travel are restricted for Level 3 countries. That designation comes from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Restrictions cover permanent change of station, temporary duty, and government-funded leave. Families of service members and civilian personnel cannot travel to Level 2 locations. For those who have traveled to high-risk countries, all personnel must self-monitor at home for 14 days. The Pentagon will reevaluate this in 60 days.
The coronavirus wasn't specifically mentioned, but as of this morning, public tours of the White House have been temporarily suspended. A recording at the White House tour line telling callers the suspension is out of an abundance of caution. On top of that, the Capitol building and the Supreme Court have also been closed to the public.
News of something bizarre happening around Texas. Restaurant owners in the Houston area say some of their customers are stealing toilet paper and hand sanitizer. The owner of one place says their supply of toilet paper disappeared overnight. Not used, but taken. Out of 70 hand sanitizers and soaps, only one was left over the weekend. And the owner says that's because it was the only bottle that wouldn't fit into a purse. When he shared that in a Facebook group, he found out he was not the only one.
Everybody started checking their stuff, and there was a lot of people that were like, wow, you're right.
He says it's an added expense on top of a drop in business thanks to concerns over the coronavirus.
The next Mars rover mission, expected to launch later this year, getting pushed back. But it's not just over the coronavirus. Why officials say they're putting the plans on hold, that's still to come.
And Taco Bell is adding even more stuff to its menu this week. Now it is breakfast burritos, what the chain says sets their burritos apart. We are coming to you from the KSAT News at 9 set here in our newsroom to talk about what is coming up tonight at 9. You know by now that the coronavirus is impacting just about every aspect of life. That includes local hospitals, especially if you're wanting to go visit a loved one who may be having a procedure or recovering from something else at a hospital. Local hospitals are now putting into place some updated guidelines, perhaps even restricting visitors, screening visitors who may want to stop by and visit somebody. So we're going to do a roundup of what you can expect if you've got plans to go visit someone, or if you're going to be going to a hospital sometime soon, what you can expect because of the fallout from this illness.
And a regular segment on the 9 is the business briefing, where you speak with Greg Jefferson, the business editor and columnist. And tonight you guys are going to be talking about CBD testing.
That's right. We're going to be talking about the difference in Texas law from June, where the state allows a small percentage of hemp versus what is determined to be marijuana, and how law enforcement has really kind of grappled with how to distinguish those two. So what that could mean for Bexar County in terms of being able to test for the difference, and then also a local woman who was fired over her CBD use and is now suing over that.
And it is Throwback Thursday, and we're taking a look at the Pearl Brewery right around the corner and right behind us here on the set. It has certainly come a long way in recent years, so you guys are taking a look at how the brewery has evolved over time.
Absolutely. Telling the story behind the story of what you probably already know about the Pearl. It's something we do in our Throwback Thursday segment every week here on the News at 9, so tune in for that.
All right, let's send it back to the studio with Adam.
Tim and Myra, I'm just going to assume I misunderstood you. Throwback Thursday? Close. It's also Thermthurs. That's right, and I've got some cool progress to share with you. And of course, this week's homemade thermometer winner coming right up. First, the weather. Right now, we're at 85 degrees, 10 p.m., 74. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, we'll be in the mid-60s, some low clouds, maybe a few sprinkles. Not much of a change from what we had earlier this morning. So we'll be back to talk more about rain chances as well coming up.
Plans to launch another Mars rover mission by the end of the year now on hold. The European Space Agency and the Roscosmos Space Corporation were supposed to send a rover to the Red Planet later this year. The project's primary goal was to try to find evidence of life on Mars and better understand the history of water on that planet.
The two space agencies collaborating in the joint mission say they had to decide to postpone that mission until 2022. It's only partly due to concerns about the impact of coronavirus. They're also dealing with technical problems, and they say that spacecraft won't be ready in time. More work to be done there.
In the buzz today, Taco Bell obviously trying to get some buzz with some new additions to their menu. Yesterday, we talked about the Triple Lupa. Well, today it is breakfast burritos. Starting today, the chain is selling a new line of pressed breakfast burritos, which includes 3 options.
A toasted burrito, breakfast burrito with egg, sausage, and nacho cheese. One with eggs, potato bites, pico de gallo, and 3 cheese blend and either bacon or sausage. Can't go wrong with either. And one with eggs, the 3 cheese blend, a hash brown, and bacon or sausage again. Taco Bell has been serving breakfast nationally since 2014, but with more chains getting into the breakfast biz, Taco Bell is upping its game, and I think our producer just wants to make me hungry during this segment because Taco Bell has led it twice.
He's a fan. It may not technically be spring, at least on the calendar, but spring is certainly in the air, and there's no better day to brush off your shovel and get to work because it is National Plant a Flower Day. You may have noticed some daffodils or maybe tulips sprouting up in some spots.
Lots of beautiful flowers out there. Now is the time to start preparing for summer color. Before you head to your local nursery, though, you need to do a little research and learn about the best flowers for your garden. Knowing your hardiness zone will help those vibrant annuals and perennials thrive, and it's a great way to shake off the winter blues and get a little vitamin D. But I've got a black thumb, so everything I plant eventually dies.
The pots on my porch are just abysmal. They look so sad.
I try every day.
Some of us may still be coming out of the Girl Scout cookie haze, but there's a lot more to the group than just those delicious cookies. Today is also National Girl Scout Day. March 12th recognizes the group and the millions of girls who are members. The day the group was founded back in 1912.
It all started as a way for girls to take part in service projects and outdoor adventures, and those cornerstones are still a part of its mission today. Supporting the Girl Scouts is easy. You could volunteer to be a leader, donate to your local troop, or just buy more cookies, which I think you can still do online at this point.
Oh, and by the way, Caskey, there are 2 National Johnny Appleseed Days, and I just wanted to make sure you didn't miss that from yesterday.
I was working on thermometers in the garage. I saw that. Saw the whole thing. I did. I was about to shoot you a text right away, but I didn't want to give it the credit, right?
The fact that there are 2, I thought he's going to love this. He's going to love it.
Oh, you know, here we go. I talked about it earlier, oak season.
Yeah.
That's spiking.
I call it second fall because all the leaves fall and you gotta
It is. I know it is. They all, and it's almost messier this time of year as those catkins force the leaves off the trees and then they take place and give us all the pollen in the air, and we're noticing that. So I talked about that earlier, just something to keep in mind. You know, if you're sensitive, especially to the oak pollen or other spring allergens, they're really starting to pop. So take your necessary precautions. Warm and humid. Daily rain chances are coming, but don't get your hopes up because no single day really stands out as something that could be a good gully washer or something that could really put a dent in our drought. So we'll talk about that pattern in a minute. First, the warmth, 85 right now after a high temperature of 87. So well above average for this time of year. Dew points are in the low 60s, some mid 60s as well. We're feeling the mugginess outside. It's not at the oppressive levels, and we're not expecting it to be oppressive. Just spring-like humidity out there and more of the same the next few days. So temperature-wise, 90 Carrizo Springs and Cotulla, Laredo at 92. Those are the warmer locations. You get to 86 in Pleasanton, 84 in New Braunfels, and some 70s in the Hill Country. And the wider view of the state doesn't show any major changes. There's going to be another cold front that drops southward from Canada, but right now it's really unclear if it'll actually move through town here. Right now we think it's going to stall just to the north of us as we get into the upcoming weekend. Even if it did hit us, I don't think it'd have a big impact on our temperatures all that much. All right, take a look at the visible satellite imagery, and it shows these high thin clouds very nicely streaming overhead, even a little bit of morning fog and low clouds that we had earlier today. We'll have that again in spots tomorrow, and then more of this high cloud cover streaming overhead, which at times layers up and gives us really filtered sunshine and periodically makes it look fairly cloudy out there. And this is all part of this upper level disturbance that's just off the California coastline there. Out ahead of it, we've got this plume of moisture in the upper levels coming off the Pacific, and it's all feeding right overhead and into Texas. And we were really hopeful that this upper disturbance would move right overhead and boost our rain chances. That's not the case anymore. It looks like a big upper level high in Mexico is going to keep that energy and this good moisture you see over the desert Southwest, keep that too far to the north of us. So here's a look at those rain chances. By Saturday, 20%, Sunday, 30%. So we're not looking at anything significant here. If we see anything pop up, a quick little thunder shower and maybe 1/10 of an inch here and there. Next week is when we get into those daily rain chances I mentioned. Right now we're calling it 40% every day, Monday through Thursday. We'll be fine tuning these numbers, but as it stands now, no day really stands out amongst the others that looks like a really good chance. So right now it's all just equal chances of about 30 to 40% every day. 80 degrees at 8 p.m. By 10 p.m. 74. Tomorrow morning we'll start the day at 66. By noon 74. So definitely more of the same in the morning. But by the afternoon, a little extra cloud cover should limit us to about 80 degrees opposed to the mid 80s that we had around town today. Temperatures don't change much for the rest of the week and even into next week. Mostly upper 70s, right around 80. All right, we're going to revisit something here.
Okay.
I've made a lot of progress. I've made a lot of progress on many projects lately. This is great. My thermometer creation has exploded. All right, let's go back to, remember this, rattlesnake skin.
Oh, yes.
The rattler.
How
My buddies
could
and
we
I
forget?
harvested in the neighborhood, right? I always said, I'm gonna try to make a thermometer out of this puppy. Well, I've made progress. And here we are now.
Wow.
This is where I am on my little workbench there with a little towel over it. And I've got the skin on an appropriately sized piece of wood that's tapered appropriately to the sides of the rattle skin, the belly part of the skin.
Okay.
So that wraps around the sides, and I use certain adhesives. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I'm not a taxidermist, nor do I ever think I could be one, but I think this is going to work out. So next week I hope to have my finished product, and that'll be the first of about 3 of those. Now, Erica Martinez of San Antonio, the one who just received an email from me, that Erica Martinez, you will be winning a normal homemade thermometer. Not one.
Congratulations to her.
Hers will be normal, okay? Yes.
All right.
You can keep that rattlesnake one out of the newsroom. I don't
Oh,
know.
no, it's coming in. You know it.
Oh, yeah. The rattle's been here, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that's coming too.
Lovely.
Thanks, Adam.
It's fun to sneak up on people with that.
In case you missed it, coming up next. Here's today's In Case You Missed It.
It is Thursday. It is March 12th. And first things first, we want to clarify a fake tweet that is going around with the KSAT name attached to it. That fake tweet indicates that a student at Memorial High School has tested positive for coronavirus. This is not true.
This tweet, you may have seen it if you're on Twitter. It came out around 3:03 this afternoon. Again, it is not true. We have not put out a tweet. And as far as we know, there have been no cases of coronavirus at any high High School.
Local schools are keeping an eye on the situation, and obviously if there's anything that happens regarding that, they will let us know and we'll pass it on.
A woman recovering after being hit by a car while crossing the street. It happened just after 11 last night in the 300 block of San Pedro Avenue. That's just north of downtown. According to police, the driver pulled over and helped the woman. She was taken to the hospital and is in critical condition. No word on if the driver will be facing any charges.
Over on Capitol Hill, lawmakers now scrambling to find ways to contain this outbreak and mitigate its impact on our wallets.
But amid growing public anxiety, Trump announcing drastic new measures to fight the outbreak, calling for a series of stimulus measures to help the economy. Today, trading was halted for the second time this week as financial markets continue to tumble.
Starting today, invitations to participate in the 2020 census will be sent out to those living in Bexar County.
You'll have until May to take part in the census. You can respond online, by phone, or by mail. But in May, volunteers are going to be knocking at your door if you didn't fill one out. They want to make sure everyone's counted. It helps determine how much funding states will get and where the money will go. And they say it's important that children are counted as well.
We want to make you aware of some late-breaking news. We are following a standoff underway in Cibolo right now. Officers say they were called to a home around 4 this afternoon on Willow Bluff.
Police say the person barricaded in their home fired a shot toward the officer. That officer was not hit. SWAT is on the scene currently negotiating. Everyone in this area is urged to stay inside of their homes until police say it is safe to come out. We'll continue following the story for you.
Definitely have the update on KSAT.com as well. Thanks for watching the news at 6.
See you back here for the news tonight on the Nightbeat. And don't forget the 9 at 9 wherever you stream.